worked in an old factory where the constant hum of machinery was a perpetual whisper in his ears. Jason and his family resided in an old, worn house, its walls cracked and its windows seldom letting in light. Days passed, and despite relentless efforts, Jason could not earn enough to meet his family's basic needs. The tattered clothes they wore were a testament to their poverty. But Jason never lost hope, always facing hardships with a smile. David, Jason's old friend, was aware of his plight. He was a man whose eyes seemed to hold hidden secrets. One day, David contacted Jason and asked to meet him at a park near his home. The air was cold and foggy when Jason arrived at the park. David stood beside an old statue, one that seemed to have witnessed the town's stories and secrets for years. After a brief exchange of greetings, David said seriously, looking deeply into Jason's eyes, "I know you and your family are struggling. I want to help." "How can you help?" Jason asked, puzzled. David stepped closer, his voice a tremor of mystery. "There's a way that can make you wealthy, but you must sacrifice something." "What must I sacrifice?" Jason inquired with curiosity. David locked eyes with Jason and replied, "Your soul." Jason suddenly let out a loud laugh, one that echoed through the foggy silence of the park, a reflection of disbelief and mockery. But David remained serious, his gaze steady, as if his words were more serious than Jason could ever imagine. After much discussion and debate, Jason finally relented. David, with a serious face and deep gaze, said to Jason, "For this act to be performed, and for you to become wealthy, we must conduct a ceremony in a remote forest." Jason, willing to accept anything other than poverty and deprivation at that moment, agreed to David's words. They arranged to set off for the forest at 7 o'clock in the morning. The next day, as the sun had not yet fully risen above the horizon, David and Jason set out. A 3-hour journey lay ahead. They passed through sleepy villages and empty fields until they reached a forest where the trees stretched up like columns towards the sky. David pointed to the forest and said, "Now we must wait here until 10 o'clock at night and then start the ceremony." They waited in the silence of the forest, where only the sound of birds and the rustling of leaves could be heard. As the shadows grew longer and the sky turned orange, David lit a fire. The flames danced in the darkness like performers and cast mysterious light on the faces of the two men. David told Jason, "Sit by the fire." He himself sat down beside the fire. Jason, now feeling a deep anxiety within him, stared into the flames. David took an old, heavy book out of his bag and flipped through its pages. With a voice tinged with hesitation, he began to read words in an unknown language. As night fell and the stars appeared one after another in the sky, Jason felt the air around him grow heavier. Suddenly, an unexpected sound echoed through the forest, a sound that was neither animal nor wind. Jason looked at David with fear, but David continued the ceremony, only his eyes fixed on the book and his lips murmuring the words. If you enjoyed it so far, please hit the subscribe button if you liked the video. When David finished reading the book, a black smoke emerged from the fire and engulfed the forest. Jason, who had never seen such a scene before, trembled with fear, and his breaths became heavy. David said to him in a calm voice, "Do not fear. This creature means you no harm." As the smoke dissipated, a tall, terrifying creature appeared. Its skin was black, and its eyes glowed like red coals. Jason, who had never believed in such things until that moment, was terrified at the sight of the creature, almost to the point of fainting. David looked at the creature with respect and said, "Greetings to you, Mammon, god of wealth and providence." The creature replied with a voice that seemed to come from the depths of the forest. "Greetings to you, my faithful servant." Mammon began to introduce himself. "I am Mammon, the god of wealth and the son of the great Satan, Lucifer." Jason, shocked to hear that the creature was the son of Satan, regretted coming to this forest and listening to his friend's words. Mammon turned to David and asked, "Is your friend ready?" David confidently answered, "Yes, Lord Mammon, he is ready." Mammon turned to Jason and said, "Are you ready to sell your soul to me? If you are ready, say, 'I am ready,' 3 times in a row." Jason, trembling with fear, repeated the phrase 3 times. Mammon laughed loudly, echoing through the silence of the forest, and vanished, leaving only a trail of black smoke. Jason and David, both in shock and awe, returned to their homes, where Jason wondered whether anything would actually happen to him. Several days after that mysterious night, events began to unfold that led to Jason's prosperity. Suddenly, money was found in a corner of the house, its origin unknown. David, who worked at a factory, was promoted to foreman and received a significant pay raise. Months passed, and Jason had become almost wealthy. But along with the wealth, strange occurrences began to frighten him. Objects in the house moved without reason, and unknown shadows were seen in the corners. One night, David, exhausted from the day's work, went to bed and saw a terrifying creature in his room that filled him with dread. David asked the creature, "What do you want from me?" The creature, with a voice that seemed to come from the depths of hell, said, "I have come on behalf of Lord Mammon to enjoy your soul, and I can come whenever I wish." It laughed terrifyingly and disappeared. David fainted from fear, and when he woke up in the morning, he was in his room but could not tell his family about the incident for fear of frightening them. Many nights passed in terror for Jason. One day, Jason decided to rid himself of these creatures and horrors. He inquired and found the home of a God-fearing exorcist. One night he went to the exorcist's house and recounted the entire ordeal. The exorcist looked at Jason and said, "You have done something wrong and committed a great sin. You have made a pact with the son of the great Satan, Lucifer." Jason, upset by this, asked, "Can this problem or sin be resolved?" The exorcist replied, "Yes, I will now perform a ceremony to rid your soul of these creatures." The exorcist began the ceremony, and after 2 hours it was completed. Jason, now feeling relieved, thanked the exorcist profusely and returned to his home.